Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to call the meeting of the Richmond City Council for Monday, September 9th, 2024 to order. May I have a motion on the minutes?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Madam Clerk, any agenda additions or deletions?
None, Your Worship.
All right. So that brings us to our first order of business, which is an Olympic recognition presentation. I'll come out front. Well, good evening. You look the same as you did a minute ago. No, this is really a great opportunity for us as a city council to celebrate the accomplishments of some very special people in our community. We have a special presentation to recognize 3 Richmond athletes who represented Canada at this year's Olympic Summer Games held in Paris. Cameron Rogers and Evan Dunphy have joined us tonight. And unfortunately, Nicholas Zhang could not join us. Hardship case, he's looking in from Harvard University where he is studying. And so he could not be with us tonight, but his father is representing him. So I'm going to call for Martin Zhang. I wonder if you could come forward, please. How about standing right there? Martin Zhang is Nicholas Zhang's father. Nicholas is a fencer who trains with his coach, Igor Gansevich, at Dynamo Fencing, and became the youngest male épée fencer on Team Canada to ever qualify for the Olympics. For your information, épée is one of the 3 disciplines in fencing along with foil and saber. So he started fencing at 11 years of age. In addition to qualifying for the Paris 2024 Summer Olympic Games, he was also recruited to fence at Harvard University, where I say he is now. On his road to the Olympics, Nicholas competed in the 2023 Pan Am Championships, the 2024 Pan American Games, and he finally qualified for Paris at the Pan American Zonal Qualifier in April of 2024. So as a council, we want to offer our congratulations to Nicholas on his achievements. And we look forward to watching him compete in the coming years. And Martin, if you could please convey that to Nicholas, we would be very grateful. We do have a small token of recognition from the City of Richmond.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. So the second Olympian from Richmond that we're honoring tonight is Evan Dunphy. Evan, if you want to come up here and join me. Now, I think most of you know Evan Dunphy. Evan we see Evan all the time in his training as he walks every street and every corner of the city of Richmond. But he started at the age of 10 years old. There's an old picture of him. And he's been coached since that time by Jerry Dragomir at the Kjax Track and Field Club. Evan was selected to his first national team in 2006, going to compete internationally at the youth, junior, and senior levels with many notable accomplishments. He really made history at the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games, where he won a bronze medal in the 50-kilometer race walk. Just think of that, 50 kilometers. In Paris at the 2024 Summer Games, Evan competed in 2 events, including the marathon race walk mixed relay as well as the 20-kilometer race walk, where he finished in 5th place, just missing another medal. So we want to offer our congratulations on your achievements, Evan, and we look forward to your continued success and watching you compete in the coming years. And our third Olympian, we'd like to call Cameron Rogers forward. Cameron, could you come up here and join me? Now, Cameron was... Now that is special. Cameron was first introduced to track and field in 2012, and she quickly fell in love with the hammer throw. She began training with the KJAX Track and Field Club, working with coaches Richard Collier and then his son Garrett Collier. Cameron made history in her Olympic debut in Tokyo 2020, as she became the first Canadian woman to ever advance into the Olympic hammer throw final. Cameron has then gone on to compete at the NCAA level, representing the University of California at Berkeley, where she won multiple national titles. She also competed internationally at the youth, junior, and senior levels, winning gold at the World Athletics Championship in 2023. Now, this summer in Paris at the Summer Games, Cameron won a gold medal in the hammer throw with a throw of 76.97 meters. Did I get that number right? Now, that was fantastic in itself. But remarkably, this was the first gold medal for a Canadian woman in track and field in 96 years. Yeah. And it was the first ever in the hammer throw. So this person is the reigning world and Olympic champion in her event. So we want to offer our congratulations to you on your gold medal, and we look forward to your continued success and watching you compete in the coming years, and we'll see you back here in 4 years. How's that? Now, in a minute, we're going to invite all of the 3 recipients to come back here for a picture, a photo op with me and council. But I want to just say a word of congratulations to all 3 athletes on your very significant achievements at the Paris 24 Olympic Summer Games. You've made your city and your country very, very proud. But I also want to just say a very short word about the KJAX Track and Field Club. This was started in 1961 by Doug and Diane Clements, and that club has a long history of developing high-level athletes who have competed successfully on the world stage. Over 50 athletes have competed in multiple Olympic Games since the KJAX were formed. And if any of you or any of the listening public would like an opportunity to meet the Olympians, Evan Dunphy and Cameron Rogers, there's going to be a community event taking place on Sunday, September 15th. Sunday, September 15th, 2024, between 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock on the plaza at the Minneru Center for Active Living. So we welcome the community to come out and meet the Olympians from the city of Richmond. So on that note, I'm going to ask the 3 to come back here, and I'll ask council to join me, and we're just going to have a very special photograph. Okay, folks, if we can get her going again. I think you would agree with me that that was a very special presentation, and it's terrific to be able to honor such great young citizens. So with that, may I have a motion to resolve in a committee of the whole to hear delegations on items on the agenda? Yes. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Now, is there anybody here who wishes to speak to an item on the agenda tonight? Anyone? May I have a motion to rise and report? Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. That brings us to the consent agenda. We have the receipt of committee minutes, the award of contract for the supply and delivery of Apple products, the business license application eligibility, the transit-oriented area for Aberdeen Station and Burkeville, the sunshine list for the City of Richmond-owned corporate employees. Then we have a land use application for first, second, and third reading. The first one, Councillor Galanders has asked be taken off the consent agenda, the one on Calder Road. Then we have 12071 2nd Avenue, rezoning from Stevenson Commercial Zone to Commercial Mixed Use, 2nd Avenue, Stevenson Village Zone. And then we have an application for first reading that goes to public hearing at 9511 Granville Avenue, rezoning from small-scale multi-unit housing zone to the townhouse North McLennan City Center Zone and the school and institutional use zone. And finally, we have the OCP targeted update phase 1 public engagement overview. May I have a motion to adopt those by general consent? Okay, so we're looking for speakers on that. Councillor Day.
Thank you very much, Mayor Brody. I'd like to speak to a number of items. Number 7 is the award of supply of Apple products. And I'm happy to say that staff went out to tender and got a number of proposals. And so we're talking a 3-year term for $595,000. And if they do a good job, they could get a second term, and that takes us up to $1.1 million. Number 8 is a business license application eligibility. When staff first brought this forward, we were surprised that we needed it, but what's happened is people will lose their business license for doing something that is contrary to our bylaws, and then they just come back under a different name or, a different applicant, and then they apply again. So we had to clean up our process to make sure that people couldn't take advantage of this loophole that we had. So I applaud staff for finding the loophole and coming to us with a new proposal, a new bylaw that will work. I did have one question. It says that after 2 years they can reapply. Will they have to pay off the fines and the fees that they were charged when they lost their license before they can apply after those 2 years?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, that is correct. For the business license to be processed, the applicant has to pay off all existing fines.
All right, that's good to hear. Thank you very much. And then the next one is number 9, as a transit-orientated area for Aberdeen, which is Burkeville. Basically, we have a SkyTrain station, and there are 11 lots in Burkeville that fall under the provincial bubble, if you want to call it that. And would it really make sense to have 11 lots in Burkeville be allowed to be, 6, 8 stories high? It doesn't make any sense. I think it's a clerical error. I hope to choose that it is on behalf of the province, but what we need to do as a council is to ask the province to fix this error, which is very obvious. And, YVR wrote us a letter, and they want a policy that would require developers to consult with the airport authority for denser residential in developments on Sea Island. Do we currently have a policy like that? And what does staff think about that?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, the policy that's proposed in there is to essentially double down on the fact that Burkeville is meant for low-density residential development only, and that there'd be no confusion that that is an area that should be used from high-rise development or mid-rise. It's not appropriate, and the policy would just clarify that.
Right. And then the other question I had was, so the federal noise rules, don't they trump the provincial rules, like for transit-oriented residential? Because it seems to me that really, I mean, all the feds have to do is say, no, that's federal area, you can't do it.
Yeah, through your worship to Councillor Day, noise is an interesting one. The federal government actually really has more of a say on height. When it comes to noise, that's a policy that the city has implemented as far as areas that are appropriate for residential development and not, and it's in concert with YVR. So we wouldn't be able to use the noise card in this case to say that that type of development is not permitted. With respect to height, there is certainly height limits, but it could feasibly allow 8 stories. So we can't use that either, and that's the reason why there's a policy being proposed for.
So if the
this.
province doesn't fix this error, we can't use the feds as a backup plan?
Through your worship, Councillor Day, not sort of a black and white. If we need support, like we received a letter from YVR, we could certainly look at doing that.
All right, thank you very much. And number 10, this is an exciting one, a sunshine list for the City of Richmond-owned corporations. I'm sure a lot of people in Richmond don't realize we own quite a few corporations, Lulu Island Energy Corp, Alderbridge, and in particular, the Oval. It has 1 share, and the city owns that 1 share. So what are people that work at the Oval making as a salary? For the city, we must disclose anybody who makes over $75,000 or $100,000, but that isn't happening currently at the Oval. And I think it's a very good idea to make sure we have full transparency and accountability with every single one of our corporations, including the Oval. So I'll be supporting that. And my last one I just wanted to talk about is number 12. I'm a little concerned. I have a question from staff. This is a rezoning at 12071 2nd Avenue, and it's going to allow for an existing building to be torn down and another building to be in its place. But I'm wondering if we can recess the 3rd level so it looks more like a Steveston Village building as opposed to such a tall, imposing building. Because, you know, when we built Steveston to begin with, we had these smaller 1- and 2-story buildings, and this one's going to be 3 stories. And I've noticed from the drawings that it seems like it's almost right at the sidewalk. Is there any possibility of pushing back that 3rd floor to maintain the character?
Yes, through your worship to Councillor Day. The proposed design is in keeping with the guidelines for the area. We will be further assessing the development of the building through the development permit process as well. However, the current form is in keeping with the guidelines.
Okay, well, maybe we can come back with something a little more user-friendly. Thank you. That's it for me.
Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I'll be brief. Just want to ask staff a question on the business license applications, if I may. I think it's something that obviously it was a loophole and people were not disclosing. When people apply for a business license, do we not ask, or do we ask for the names and addresses of the owners, but also the boards of directors that might run that establishment?
Through your worship to Councillor McNulty, in the application form, you are required to provide information regarding the owner and operator director.
Okay, the owner and operator director, but what about the board of directors? What if one of the board of directors applies for the business license? Yeah, because they say they're running the business as opposed to the owner running the business. I'm
Through your
looking at the
worship,
loopholes here.
Through your worship to Councillor McNulty, the bylaw amendment will require persons of interest, which are considered 25% shareholders, to provide that information. Currently, that information is not requested on the application form.
Okay, that's a pity. It might be something we would consider because we do in some of our other areas. How many businesses would this entail that we would be looking that would have applied and got away with if the license was suspended?
Through your worship to Councillor McNulty, I'm not aware of any businesses currently that have done so.
Okay, well, thank you. That's, Your worship, interesting, I'll be supporting the Burkeville Transit Area Oriented. Here's the application of a policy and a rule that we didn't need a policy and a rule to deal with it, and it came from across the water, and it's called common sense, I think, would have been the best rule to deal with this one. And we know Burkeville and the history of Burkeville and what they're doing over there in terms of building redevelopment and a very close-knit community. So I'm very happy we are sending a letter, even though we shouldn't have to do that, but we want to continue to support them. And I too will be supporting the Sunshine List for corporate employees. I've asked for it for many, many years, and we're finally hopefully going to get it. The City of Richmond is the sole shareholder. The buck stops here with 9 people around the table. And all the other salaries that we do in our businesses that we have are all declared in public and transparent, and we're accountable for it. But for many years, we never got any information from there. We have no idea what we're talking about when we see it. So this will at least start the opening to full transparency at the Oval in terms of employees. I understand we're talking in terms of employees at the Oval about 200 employees. That's a significant workforce, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to see it. But also, as the author mentioned, it can be a motivator for people wanting to get involved, people looking at it. You want a job in the city of Vancouver in such and such a department, you see the salary there. You want a job in Richmond, you understand the range of salaries here that are here. So I think it's a win-win situation in all areas. So I'll be supporting everything else on the agenda.
Okay, Councillor Glanders.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will also be supporting everything on the consent agenda tonight, and I just want to highlight a couple of things that other people have also spoken about. Number 9, the provincial order for transit-oriented area for Aberdeen Station, Burkeville. As others have mentioned, this seems like it's a clerical error. It seems like a no-brainer that these 11 lots wouldn't be included. And what our staff did was, because these 11 lots are actually not within 800 meters of walking distance of the SkyTrain, as the crow flies, yes, but they have to walk around a couple of kilometers. We included some other areas into the transit-oriented area that we didn't need to compensate for that. So, and also with the letter that we have from YVR with their concerns, I hope that the government realizes that having these 11 lots included in that is really not worth it, and admits that they made a mistake. The Sunshine List for Richmond-owned corporations, this is a great motion brought forward by Councillor Heed. I'm surprised that we didn't already have this in place. A lot of people ask, want transparency. These are city-funded corporations, not entirely, but it should be publicized just like city employees are. And so this is one step to moving towards being trustworthy and transparent and accountable to the public. And another item, so we have a few came to planning this week or last week, rezoning from small-scale multi-unit housing, which is all the RSM lots now, to the townhouse zoning, as per our arterial road policy and the types of rezonings we had before. And I noticed a few of them came to planning last week, and then a few weeks has to go by before they come to council because we no longer have public hearings. But it was good to see, with regards to a supply perspective, I know that some of our staff is worried that people would just go ahead and build the small-scale multi-unit housing instead of coming for a rezoning to build to the maximum density, the townhouse type zoning. So it's good to see that a number of them are coming forward and that we didn't need to worry too much about that. The last item, the official community plan update, phase 1 public engagement overview. That is, this is the public's chance to this is the start of engaging the public. What do you want your city to look like? And I really hope that the public participates fully in this, and because with no more public hearings on rezonings, this really is the public's only chance to give their input on, what type of development they want and what they want it to look like. So we need the public to participate, and this is how we're doing it. So that's it for me. Thanks.
Hey, Councillor Hobbs.
Thanks, and through the chair, I'll be supporting everything on the consent agenda as well. And I'll just speak to one, and that's number 9, and that's the area of Burkeville, where the provincial legislation regarding transit-oriented areas has, because it is an arbitrary policy of 800 meters, includes 11 lots on Sea Island in Burkeville, and apparently you will be eligible to build 8-story buildings there. So that's ridiculous. It's part of a one-size-fits-all, top-down, arbitrary policy passed by the provincial government. It's simplistic, and it reflects a real lack of local knowledge. And I really hope that the provincial government will listen to the community and to this council and make an exception for that. That would be very good and reasonable. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll just speak to a couple of ones that haven't been mentioned. So the development item number 13, that is the application for 9511 Granville Avenue. I typically am not in support of these types because following the path that there's 22 trees on site, only 4 are being saved, we're losing 18, they're required to plant 36, but they're only making room for 19. So they're going to give 17 in cash in lieu. Hopefully those 17 cash in lieu trees go to Garden City Park because that's adjacent to this. The reason why I'm supporting this one, 2 reasons. They are exceeding the outdoor amenity space for the site. They're putting an extra 18 square meters into it, so for a total of 90 square meters. But the other one is that they're doing a voluntary transfer of the northern portion of the site to the school district to better support the trail system and the other uses of that site. So that I thought would be kind of a cap on this developer's approach to it, so I appreciated that. And then I did make comments at Planning Committee on the official community plan targeted update. I was a bit surprised that it went to planning and not to all of council at a committee like the general purposes. This is my first time, many of our first times going through the official community plan update. And I also just see the connection between this and the item 9 with the provincial order, because we've heard that a number of these housing bills have really set back the approach and the timeline that we had set out for ourselves to go forward with this update. So I'm pleased that it's coming forward after having to do a number of these mandatory provincial responses. So with that, I'll be in support of everything on the consent agenda.
Okay, thanks. Yes, on this point about the OCP, I think it's more appropriate that, this part of it went to Planning Committee, but I think after this, we should be dealing with it as the whole council will do it in General Purposes Committee. Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Worship. I too will be supporting everything on tonight's consent agenda. Just a couple of things I wanted to mention. Yes, I'm really in support of the business license eligibility. It seems like a no-brainer. It's almost like, why didn't we do this before? Well, maybe we didn't need to do it before, and if someone had their wrist slapped and had their license taken away, they wouldn't do something like try and just change the name and reapply. But closing the loophole and making the business licensing a more fair and firm situation, I think is better. So while I typically hate adding bureaucracy, I really agree with it in this case. I am also, just like many of my colleagues here, disgruntled with the way the province has added bureaucracy and added bureaucrats in dropping a point on the Aberdeen Centre for item number 9, dropping a point on Aberdeen Centre, drawing a circle around it, forgetting about that there's a waterway in between so that it's by the crow flies. Yes, it's 800 meters, but seeing as we're not trying to get crows onto transit, we're trying to get people onto transit, that this isn't the correct way to do it. And, if they're lacking their own, the province probably could have overlaid artificial intelligence, if they didn't have their own, and figured out that the body of water between the site in Burkeville and the transit where they're suggesting people use you can't get there from here. And so I really wish that instead of this whole Bill 44 and the transit-oriented, especially because Richmond already had looked at many of these things, they'd given us other carrots like schools, hospitals, bridges, but seeing as they haven't, we'll stand against it with this provision in item number 9. Thank you.
Councillor Howe.
Yes, Your Worship, I just want to add a few comments on the items. Number 9, well, I think ever since the Bill 44 was being introduced, this council has mentioned very often that one size doesn't fit all. And I think this is a good example that what's being perceived to be a good policy on the part of the province does not do well in our city. Yes, according to the physical distance, this might fall into the 800-meter radius, but the actual physical situation is quite different. Now, what I don't really understand is that this is a very simple thing, and the provincial governments have been corrected it very easily. And I understand that staff have been in contact, in discussion with the provincial government, and I don't understand why they insist on that, so that we have to write a letter. And I also do not know what will be the outcome, whether the letter could actually change the mind of the minister. But hopefully, it will. And I also want to point out that item 14, the OCP update, is a very important exercise for the city, because it's a very important document, and it will give the guidance to the planning of the city and other forms of development. And this should have been done earlier, but because of the introduction of the Bill 44 and 47, etc., it's been delayed. So I hope that we can catch up with the delay, and hopefully by the end of 2025, we could have a new OCP. And I'm very happy with the approach being taken or being proposed by staff on page 246. It's more than the just ordinary. Staff are taking different steps and different venues to solicit feedback from the staff. From the public. So I think this is something that I'm looking forward to, and hopefully we could have a good start and a good end by 2025. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll just make a very brief comment about the Burkeville situation. The province has made it clear that they don't care about the urban impacts of that Bill 44 and Bill 47. The fact that you could have a whole row of 8 or 9 story residential dwellings parallel to Russ Baker Way makes no difference to them. And if that's not bad enough, just imagine none of those places will have parking on site or adequate parking on site. So you're going to take a great neighborhood like Burkeville, and you're going to make it an absolute nightmare with the vehicles. They just assume that people won't have the vehicles, I guess. Reference has been made to YVR. I just want to bring the public's attention. If you're looking in our package, Council page 74 through 77 76 is a letter from YVR talking about the various impacts to them and how unacceptable this edict is about Burkeville. And the second part of the resolution talks about meeting with the Minister of Housing and meeting of Minister of Transportation at UBCM. Those meetings are now set up, and so we expect to speak with both of those individuals by the end of next week. And I know that staff has been working very diligently on trying to make some sense with those ministers. So no luck yet, but I think I'm optimistic about it carefully. Okay, so on the consent agenda, I will call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. So we have the one item that's was taken off the consent agenda tonight, and that's number 11, the Calder Road rezoning, and I'll turn it over to the Chair of Planning, Councillor McNulty, to introduce it.
Thank you, Worship. The application is by, sorry about that. The application is by 114327 BC Limits for rezoning at 87, 71, and 75 Calder Road from a small 2-unit dwelling, which is RD1 zone, to a small-scale multi-unit housing zone. And the recommendation is that it be introduced and give first reading, and I would so move.
Moved and seconded.
Yeah, it's a straightforward application, Your Worship. They follow all the scriptures in terms of what they have to do, and the very legal encumbrances and handling the right-of-ways that are going to it. The tree replacement, they're doing what they can given a development. It's not ideal, but it's as good as I think they can do. But they're also, in terms of tree protection, putting up substantial money along that line and dealing with the affordable housing strategy, following that, and our policies along there. So, one of the other benefits of it is the landscaping, which is the site servicing and the frontage improvements of this particular development will add a fair bit to the community. So with that, I'll be supporting it.
Councillor Glanders.
Thank you. I have a few questions about this. So, first of all, it's currently zoned as the 2-unit dwellings, but it still falls under the provincial legislation that they could build multiple units with that zoning. So how many units would have been permitted if we weren't allowing it to subdivize it to 2 lots? How many stratified units could they have built on this lot as 1 lot?
Through your worship, to Councillor Galander's, 4 units, if it remained just 1 lot.
4 units, yeah. And currently, so I didn't go and check out this particular house.
Yes, sorry, just to correct that, there is a legal covenant registered on the property that does limit the maximum number of units on the property to a duplex, so 2 units.
So all we needed to do then, if we didn't want to have 4 to 6 unit dwellings on all of Richmond, is put covenants on all the properties that it can only be 2?
In order to, through your worship to Councillor Galanders, in order to register a legal covenant on properties, you need the agreement of the owners first in order to place all of those agreements on each individual property's title.
So if an individual owner of a house didn't want it to ever turn into 4 units, they could register a covenant on their property to circumvent the provincial legislation?
Through your worship to Councillor Galanders, I don't know how to exactly respond to that, only in that in terms of registering a legal document, usually it has to be in favor of somebody and be for a stated purpose. So I'd have to defer to any legal advice on that matter first.
Yeah, a few more questions through the chair. But that's interesting that a covenant would prevent the provincial legislation from being on that property. I didn't go and check this house, but quite often these duplexes have a secondary suite in each one. Quite often it's like the entire top level is one suite and the entire bottom level is the other. So it would be, is that what this one is? Or is it just 2 units total? Like 2 strata, but are there secondary suites? The current, yeah.
Yes. The site currently has a stratified duplex, which has, it does have, they're tenant occupied, but they do not contain any suites. So in this particular instance, it is limited, as Mr. Rees noted, secured probably by a covenant, limiting it to just the 2 main units.
Okay.
So this would be a unique situation to this site, but it is something that has popped up around the region as a bit of a challenge in terms of implementing the provincial legislation.
Okay, that's interesting, thanks. Yeah, so I took this off the consent agenda because I wanted to ask these questions. This didn't come up in planning last week, it came up on July 15th, and it's just coming to council now because of the delay we have to do. So what this is doing is it's taking a duplex and splitting it into 2 single-family lots, each with a secondary suite. So it's turning what could only be 2 units into 4 units. So I didn't know that. It wouldn't have been able to do 4 units anyway because of the covenant, so I wasn't aware of that. So I'm okay with probably supporting this one. But I do want to know where we're at with the duplex referral going forward then, because if there's other ones that are down the road that don't have this covenant, then we already have, because the referral was, how can we keep the duplexes we have and expand duplexes? So that would imply that if you have a duplex and you want to redevelop it, the minimum units you could have stratified would be 2 because it was already a 2-unit dwelling as opposed to letting people just do a single-family house. So I hope that that's still in the process of being looked at.
We'll respond to that referral in due course.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Day.
Thank you very much, Mayor Brody. Well, I did drive by this property, and there are 2 massive, beautiful trees in the front yard. Like, they are stunning, and they're going to be saved. So I will be supporting this. Thank you.
All right, with that, we'll call the question on the motion. All those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Okay. There's one other matter that came off the consent agenda. This is number 15, the application to amend the food primary liquor license. The General Purposes Committee recommendation is that the applicant from China Pro Enterprises Limited, doing business as Kung Fu Noodle, for amendment to their food primary license, requesting an increase to their hours of liquor services from Sunday to Saturday, 11 a.m. to midnight, to Sunday to Saturday, 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. be supported, and the letter be sent in the terms of the recommendation, and I would so move. Moved and seconded. Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was opposed to this at General Purposes Committee, and the reasons I stated then remain today. I don't feel there is the need, or at least we haven't heard from the public the need for this. We've really just heard from the one organization that they want to have liquor sold instead of till midnight, till 2 a.m. I've struggled to research further into this organization because they have a Kingsway version. I don't know how closely related it is. They're only open till 9. They have one that's in north, kind of city center, West Cambie area. It closes at 10 o'clock. I've heard from staff that they can be open until 2, but I don't really see the demand that we just rubber stamp anyone who wants to sell liquor later in the night, into the night, that we do that. So without value, I'm going to remain opposed. Thank you.
With that, we'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried with Councillor Wolf opposed. That brings us to the announcements tonight. And we start off with some very sad news coming out of the summer from about 2 long-serving and highly respected members of our community. The first one is Linda McPhail. Former longtime city councillor and school trustee Linda McPhail sadly passed away in July. She was first elected to council in 2011. She served 3 terms before she announced that she would not seek re-election in 2022. But before that, she sat as a school trustee with the Richmond Board of Education for 9 years, serving as chair for 7 years. While on council, Linda spent time as chair of the Community Safety and the Planning Committees, was a member of the city's various other committees, and took on roles as council liaison to several advisory committees, organizations, and community associations. Outside of her elected roles, she was an active member of the community and a passionate volunteer. She was on a number of boards: Seafair Minor Hockey Association, the Richmond Arenas Community Association. She volunteered for the 2009 BC Seniors Games and was a member of the local hospital auxiliary for over 20 years. Linda was a passionate volunteer who served her community in many ways. She was always dedicated to engaging citizens and was committed to making Richmond a strong and vibrant community that people would be proud to call home. She's always described herself as a proud resident who called Richmond home for over 6 decades, raising 3 children with her husband, Terry. So City Council, on behalf of the City of Richmond, wants to extend our deepest sympathy and condolences to Linda's family. And the second person who unfortunately passed away was Hans Havas. Richmond mourned the passing of a popular longtime resident, community volunteer, and condolence and local identity, Hans Havas, in July. Hans spent over 20 years on the board of the West Richmond Community Association, including many as president, and he actively volunteered to support numerous community events and charitable causes. Among those volunteer roles was a decade filling in for Santa at the annual fundraising events such as Skate with Santa, the Richmond Christmas Fund Toy Drive at Lansdowne Centre, and the Richmond RCMP Toy Drive. Hans was also an avid baseball fan, spending 46 years as an usher and ambassador for the Vancouver Canadians baseball team, and much loved as the usher at Nat Bailey Stadium, who jumped on the third base dugout to lead the chicken dance during the 6th inning stretch every game. So, and we could go on for some time about Hans Havas. He was also an usher at Rogers Arena in BC Place, and for him, that wasn't a job, that was doing something that he was passionately interested in. So on behalf of City Council and the City of Richmond, we extend our deepest sympathy and condolences to Hans' wife, Kathy, and all their family. Turning to other items, we have the Family Treasures exhibit at the Richmond Museum, which is being unveiled on Saturday, September 21st. It's a look at Richmond history through a collection of local heirlooms and memorabilia, including a rare 1952 Volkswagen Beetle. The free exhibit is open 7 days a week, so for details, go to the museum website. And then we have the annual Terry Fox Run for Cancer Research. That's going to be on Sunday, September 15th at 10 a.m. Runners have the option of a 1, 5, or 10-kilometer run starting in Steveston, and all funds raised go towards continuing Terry's legacy to support cancer research. So if you want more information on that one, go to terryfox.org. And there's just a couple more. First of all, the Friends of the Library book sale. That's a very popular item. It's going to take place on Saturday, September 14th at 10 o'clock in the morning. This sale will offer a wide range of gently used and good as new English and Chinese books, including fiction, classics, children's cookbooks, and more. Proceeds from the sale directly benefit Richmond Public Libraries, so bring cash as well as your own bags or boxes. The sale takes place at the Richmond Public Library, Cambie branch. So for details, go to yourlibrary.ca. And finally, at the Gateway Theatre, they have a Mid-Autumn celebration. They celebrated on Saturday, September 14th at 6 o'clock p.m. The annual Moonlight Magic Celebration is a family-friendly event featuring hands-on lantern making, a procession into Mineru Park, and a concert. The Mid-Autumn Moon Festival honors the full harvest moon as a symbol of peace, prosperity, and togetherness. It falls on September 17th this year, when the moon is at its fullest after the autumn equinox. So if you want tickets and details, go to gatewaytheatre.com. So with that, Madam Clerk, bylaws for adoption.
Thank you, Your Worship. There are 4 bylaws for final adoption. Bylaws number 1 and 4 have no opposition, and bylaws 2 and 3 have opposition.
So we'll move the first and the fourth.
So move.
And it's seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, opposed, carried. And then the second one is amendment bylaw number 10407 on Azure Road. Moved and seconded. Discussion on that? All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried with Councilors Day, Wolf, and Au opposed. And the final one is on bylaw 10406, again on Azure Road. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried with the same 3 councilors opposed. And Development Permit Panel.
Thank you, Your Worship. There are two recommendations for council. Recommendation 1, that the minutes of the Development Permit Panel meeting held on August 21st, 2024, and the chair's reports for the Development Permit Panel meetings held on April 24th, 2024, and June 12th, 2024, be received for information. And recommendation 2, that the recommendations of the panel to authorize the issuance of a development permit for the property at 6071 Azure Road and a development permit for the property at 18399 Blundell Road be endorsed and the permit so issued.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Someone moved adjournment. We are now adjourned. Thank you.